Welcome back to the channel for another video on our 22 WRX. This week we're going to be talking about oil coolers, what they do, why you should have one, and there are a couple on the market, so we're going to be talking about which ones are available specifically for the VB WRX, and maybe we'll decide on which one that we're going to get. But let me get you guys set up and let's start talking about some oil coolers. Let's go. All right, and we're under the hood. I wanted to show you guys exactly what we were talking about. So we are going to be talking about the oil cooler. So the FA24 is equipped with an oil cooler stock, and it is located right here. So this is our oil filter right here. Just below it, you see there's this like contraption looking thing, and then you have two hoses that go to it. So this is your factory oil cooler. The way that it cools right now is coolant runs through here and it cools down the oil that passes through it, and then the coolant or the water will go through the radiator and then cool that down. So that's basically how the factory cooling system is working as far as cooling the oil. So it really doesn't have any great way of cooling the oil. And you may not think that's much of an issue, but when I was editing last week's video and just watching me just going down the track, I mean, the temps were raising from like low 200s to like almost like 220. I remember parking in the pits, it was like 225. And that's just getting on it like first through like fourth gear and like maybe a little bit into fifth. And like temps are going up like 15, 20 degrees with one pull. So I can't even imagine what it would be like just doing pull after pull after pull. I know the access port, it does have it has like a safety on it. I think it's 235 degrees. If the oil temp goes over 235, it does go into limp mode and it will pull timing, will pull boost to protect the engine. So we definitely don't want that to happen. Obviously we're just doing, at the track you just do one pull or one run, and then I did park for a little bit, let the car cool down, and then we went out and did a couple other ones. The other type of racing is road racing. So if you go to the track and if you have a session, you're doing lap after lap after lap. So I'm not even sure if the car could make it through a full session if you are pushing it without an oil cooler, because if I'm raising temps like 15, 20 degrees, just going like first through fourth, like I can only imagine how high or how fast the temps go if you're like in the higher RPMs in like second or third gear doing turns and anything like that. So I can bet that the temps do increase even more. Then same thing with autocross, obviously just in a smaller, more controlled environment with cones or in a lot. But even with autocross, I feel like maybe it would be even more exaggerated since you're not really going that fast. You're not having like air go through the radiator or anything. So, I mean, with autocross too, I'm sure temps would be going up really high as well. For the VB platform, we only have two options currently as far as like off-the-shelf like oil cooler kits go. There is a Perrin one. There has been a few videos on that. Perrin does have the option to mount it up front, like behind the grill, and they do have an option if you have a front mount to mount it on their strut bar if you do have their strut bar. I'm not exactly sure if it would fit with an ETS intercooler, but I feel like you could just position it if we did go that route. It probably could fit with an ETS, but it is obviously designed with the Perrin front mount. The other option that's on the market currently is the Mishimoto. Now Mishimoto has two options. They have a thermostatic and a non-thermostatic option. So if you do the non-thermostatic option, all that you do is basically take off the oil filter, and then the sandwich plate will go on, bolt that down, and then the oil filter will just go back on. So you don't have to mess with the coolant lines. And then obviously you just route your hoses and then mount the physical cooler. The thermostatic one, that also comes in gold, the plate, that actually removes the factory oil cooler. So some people like to keep the factory cooler because it does warm the oil up a little bit quicker on like colder mornings. We're in North Carolina, so it never really gets super cold, so the car usually heats up pretty quick. But if you are in a northern state, maybe PA or even Washington, wherever you are and it's cold, you might want to keep the stock one, so maybe the non-thermostatic one would be pretty good. But with the thermostatic plate, they do remove the factory oil cooler, and you actually remove the factory lines, the coolant lines, and they give you a brand new like silicone one that just mounts directly from like where each port goes. One on, looks like it goes onto the head, and then the other one goes on like the front timing cover somewhere. So you can just take those off, and then they have a new hose that just goes on. So I do like that. The Mishi kit comes with a new hose versus the Perrin one, which comes with just a connector where you would just unplug the hoses and then plug them both in. And then you would just go about routing all your lines and everything. So while both kits on the market are great and they will both do basically the exact same thing, cool the oil, I'm open to whichever one maybe you guys want to see installed. I definitely want to get one on this car, especially after going to the track and just doing a couple runs and just seeing how fast the oil temps climb. I'd really like just to keep them consistent, and that's the goal of adding the cooler, lower the temps a little bit, and then a consistent temperature. No sporadic spikes when just doing like a pull here or there. So that's the goal with everything. And I guess the last option is if we want to make a cooler ourselves. So I made a cooler on my Turbo BRZ, which was the car that I had before this. I did use a Set-Trab adapter and then the Mocal sandwich plate. I believe Perrin uses the Mocal as well. And then I just ran my own lines. I bought a cooler. And then I just made a couple brackets to hold it in place. Now I did mount that on that was the passenger side in front of the fog light, where like the fog light cover is. I had the oil cooler there. So we always have that option to make a custom one ourselves. If you want to see me make a custom one instead of a like off-the-shelf one that they have, just put it down in the comments below. Which one do you want me to try to do? Do you want to do the Mishi, Perrin, or make our own? Now, if there are any ones that I'm overlooking, or maybe I didn't know a new one came out, definitely let me know. Put it down in the comments. I'll look it up and I'll check it out. But that's all I got for you guys on this one. Until next week, we got more parts coming in. See ya.